Excellent. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our Career Discovery Series panel on the gap year and different kinds of programs you can participate in postgraduate. And I'm excited today we have a few program representatives joining us to share more about their programs and their own experiences as well. And our setup today is set up that we will have each of our representatives introduce themselves. We'll have some questions, but we definitely want to leave some time if you have some questions for our entire panel. And then we will also have some time for individual breakout rooms. So if you have a very keen interest in a particular program or want to ask follow-up questions to one of our panelists, we will have those breakout rooms available as well for you to join. So again, thank you for joining us. We're in the middle of our series, heading towards the end. We do have one more panel I'll highlight for tomorrow night, same time, Zoom link as well for careers in the creative economy. And next week, our final panel will be on allied health professions as well. So those are careers like occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, etc., represented. So we can go ahead and dive in and get started. And I am going to ask each of our panelists to please share just information about yourself and your program that you represent. And, you're welcome to describe your own experience if you were involved in the program as well. And with that, I'm going to tap on Coro, our guest, Callie, to kick us off.
Thank you, Allison. Can you all hear me okay? All right, great. So my name is Callie Spaide. I am here on behalf of Coro Southern California. I'm the Senior Manager of Recruitment and Alumni Relations. A little bit of background about Coro. We were founded almost 70 years ago in response to these kind of massive world-shaking events. So the rise of fascism, the Great Depression. Our founders were really concerned that democracy in America would not survive if we didn't have leaders who were effective and could kind of rise to meet these major challenges. And so they built this leadership development program to foster ethical, effective leadership. We are nonpartisan, but we care very deeply about democracy and strengthening democracy. And we were heavily influenced by the theories of John Dewey, who was also influential in the American Civil Rights Movement. So the late John Lewis cited him as an inspiration. So that's where we're coming from as an organization. I'm here to talk about the Fellows Program in Public Affairs, which is a full-time 9-month program for folks who tend to be at the beginning of their careers. And it is experiential based. So there is leadership development training, and then fellows also get high-level projects in the public sector, private sector, nonprofit sector, labor, and campaign politics.
Great. Thank you so much, Callie. Elliott, would you mind please introducing yourself and city year?
For sure. Appreciate you sharing. Also, thank y'all for having me here today. Again, my name is Elliott Rowe. Pronouns are him, his. I am a recruiter for City Year. And what City Year pretty much is an educational-based nonprofit that allows students or individuals, not just students, but individuals to go within the schools, systemically under-resourced schools, to help students in these schools with their English, math, social, emotional development skills. What we hire for, or my job is to hire for student success coaches that will spend 11 months within inside of these schools. Like I said, kind of helping students just build those skills, that, sometimes get left out or that we didn't get when we were students in school, or, and just have that extra support system there. How it looks is you'll partner alongside a teacher inside of a classroom for 11 months. You'll build relationships with students, run small groups, run an after-school program, and then at the end of your 11 months, you will be able to obtain a scholarship that you can use towards furthering any of your education that you want to do, or paying off any back loans. Personally, I did do City Year. I did City Year Seattle. I did it back in 2017, 2018. The years get a little muffly, but I did it. I was a student success coach. I came back to be a leader. And then I moved to Los Angeles and I became a program manager with the organization. And now I find myself in the recruitment role because I just love speaking about the opportunities that we offer with students and also just the impact that we make on the community. So again, I appreciate y'all having me here. I'm sorry if there's any background noise that you hear, but again, I appreciate you all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Elliott. Great. And I will turn the focus over to Catherine to please introduce yourself and your program.
Hi, I'm Catherine Lacey, and I work for Americorp Vista. A little bit of background about me. I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Guiyang, China for 2 years. I also served as an Americorp Vista leader in Flint, Michigan for 1 year, and I'm here representing the Americorp Vista program. So Vista falls under that Americorp umbrella, and Americorp is a federally funded national service program that gives Americans the opportunities to serve within their community or another community to make a positive impact. While you are serving, you are earning benefits, you are gaining new experiences and building skills. And one of the greatest things about Americorp Vista is all of the programs have a focus on building capacity for an organization, most likely a nonprofit or state and local government. All of the programs focus on sustainability, so building programs that last long after your term of service has finished. And then all of the programs have an anti-poverty focus. And so the opportunities to serve with Vista, we've got 2 different opportunities. Both are full-time. You can either serve full-time for 12 months, or you can serve full-time for 7 to 10 weeks over the summer. So with those opportunities to serve, you're serving within, like I said, typically a nonprofit or a state and local government. You're able to make a positive impact and you're earning a living stipend throughout your term of service. You earn an education award or that you can pay for current educational expenses. You can repay student loans. If you are relocating to serve, there are relocation funds that are for if you're serving 50 miles away from your home of record. There's also tons of professional development. And then Americorp Vista is one of the only Americorp programs where you get non-competitive eligibility, which is a special status that allows you to have a preference when you're being hired for the federal government. So if you're interested in working for the federal government, it can be a really great way to get your foot in the door.
Excellent, excellent. We have some really interesting, diverse programs represented. So thank you again for being here. If I could ask just our first kind of question about what students tend to be really successful in your programs and thrive and are happy they chose your specific program, and what should a student consider, or what kind of questions should they ask if they're looking at different programs out there to find that that match for themselves? Are there other kinds of things that you'd recommend from your experiences to really find the best fit for themselves? And I will just open it up to see if any of you want to jump in any particular order.
I can start us off. Either way, yeah. I would say with City Year, it's I think when it comes to serving with City Year, you have to have the mindset of I'm willing to make a difference, right? I want to make a difference. And I think that you have to come with the understanding of making a difference is hard. And I try to name to anybody that looks to do City Year. It was named to me when I was first doing City Year that this work is difficult work. I mean, we're spending a lot of time in these schools, and it's not difficult because of the hours. I don't think it's difficult because of just the longevity of the job. I think it's difficult because you are being asked to be in a school setting where you're hearing stories from students that you maybe have never heard before. You're hearing things from teachers that you maybe have never heard said to students before in your life. And you just kind of like it's like a reality check almost. And I think that if you are not in the mindset of, I am here to make a difference and I understand what it takes to make this difference and I'm going to stick it out. And I see a lot of people that aren't successful in that because I call it like a sense of, we call it having a sense, what we call it? It's serving to a good greater than yourself. And you have to lean all the way into that. We're here to help students that may not have all the resources that could be afforded to them for systemic reasons, and it's just tapping into those, just believing in yourself and like pushing yourself to like, you know what, this is what I'm here for, this is why I'm here. I want to build relationships with students. I want to help them in these spaces. And I find that those that do continue to push through the year with just that mindset tend to be successful in the role. You see them happier day in and day out. You're working in a team setting of almost 8 to 10 individuals. So there's always going to be those days where we might not be clicking together, right? But I think if you get everybody on that same page, it could be beautiful. And you'll see the impact that you're making in your school. You'll see the students when you walk on campus, we wear big yellow jackets, like when you walk on there and they're running towards you because you built those relationships and it's intentional. So just for me, I mean, I like to lead a lot with my heart and not use sympathy, but lead actually with empathy and not really like feel bad for people in the situations that they're in, but just try to walk in their shoes and figure out how we can make change. And yeah, that's my spiel on that.
Great. Thank you so much.
I'll
Callie,
jump
would you
in
like to
next.
join? Mm-hmm.
Elliott, that's a great spiel. So first of all, to revisit the first part of your question, which was kind of who does well in our program. So for context about how we measure impact if you are an effective change agent by the end of the program. If you're an effective leader, and that means that you will be able to go on and make change in the field that you want effectively. That's how we gauge impact. But what that means is the program, it's a lot of introspection. You're getting a lot of feedback, a lot of coaching. It is a experiential based program and it's cohort based. So you're doing a lot with 11 other fellows and you're getting a lot of intense feedback from them. You're getting a lot of feedback from the fellows director, who's the staff member who trains you throughout the 9 months. And then you're also getting feedback from your placement supervisors because you're being put in high level positions doing important mission critical work at different organizations. And so the folks who tend to do really well in the program are usually self-aware, they're humble, they're curious, they're courageous because they're often willing to just hit the ground running in a new situation and try things out, knowing they may make mistakes. The program's also a career lab in a lot of ways. So it tends to be really beneficial for people who want to make an impact in their communities. They kind of know what they want to do, but they also want to try things out. And so this program gives you the ability to try out a lot of different sectors and see what's a good fit versus starting a career, say at an entry-level position and realizing 3 or 4 years down the road that it's not kind of what you want to do and having to pivot. I'll say that the students who do really well in this program are usually committed to public service in some way, though it doesn't always need to be working in government. It could be in the private sector, it can be in a lot of different ways. And they're curious and they're really open to taking advantage of new opportunities. The way the program is structured, you're interacting with alumni a lot. And some of those alumni are very famous, very powerful political figures within California and the country. So both of our senators, Dianne Feinstein and Alex Padilla, are Coro alumni, and they interact with fellows a lot. Holly Mitchell, who's on the LA Board of Supervisors, is an alum. Rusty Hicks is our board chair, and he's also the head of the Democratic Party for California. So you're interacting with these folks, and the people who tend to do on the program look for opportunities and kind of are excited to kind of grow in that environment.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I like what Callie and Elliott both said, and I feel like I want to add that to what I I'm saying too, because I think
Absolutely.
coming into a program open-minded, knowing that you may be working with less resources than you're used to, excited to get started, and coming in and being flexible and patient, I think are really important, because the VISTA program has such a focus on capacity building. A lot of times the organizations that you're coming into really have a great need for capacity. And so you may be working with little capacity when you first get started. We're definitely not looking for someone who has a specific background or has a specific major. Americorp programs are focused on the needs of communities. And I think all of us know that even within one community, there can be so many different types of needs. And so because of that, Americorp programs focus on a really wide range of topics. So we've got programs that focus on education, on the environment, on serving healthy futures. So there really is a program that fits with everyone. And what I like to say is just research what programs are out there, because there really is something that will spark your interest. Maybe it's something that you already have a skill in that you want to build more experience in. Maybe it's something brand new that you want to get started in. And you can really find something that fits with maybe what you want to do with your career in the future. We've got so many interesting organizations and governmental organizations who are passionate about the VISTA members who are serving. And so, I think all of the above, really.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So the next question that I want each of you to address is to share more about the application process for your program and kind of what's entailed, like what's the time frame like for deadlines and so forth. And then as part of the process in the bigger picture, just tips you have for an applicant to positively, impress the recruitment team and successfully stand out as an applicant. And I'll let anyone jump into that if you'd like to.
I can get started. So with the application process for Americorp Vista, like I mentioned, the first part is doing research. So you would go onto our website, which is my.americorp.gov, and look at all of the open Americorp positions across the country. And we've got positions in all 50 states, all US territories. And so you can search by geographical location, if there's a certain community that you want to serve in. You can also search by the focus area. So if you're looking for programs that focus on, disaster relief, for example, you can find programs in your community that have that focus. So after you go through kind of the research process, you're going to create a profile. And create an application. And that involves talking about your educational background, your work background, talk about your volunteer background. So what are things that you've done thus far to make a positive impact in your community or within your school? And then you can apply to the open positions that you're interested in. So we do encourage people to apply to multiple positions. You can apply to up to 10 positions. And then the organizations who have those Americorp programs are going to review your application and decide if they think you would be a good fit to move to the next step, which would be an interview process. So we always recommend that people give themselves at least a couple of months ahead of time before they're ready to start serving, to start that process, because that includes all of the research, it includes any background checks, it includes the interview process, and we're always here to help too. If people have questions through the application process, we are always available to answer questions.
Excellent, thank you. How about Coro or City Year? Would you like to jump in, Callie? Great.
I'll jump in. So we have a two-step application process. If you go to CoroLA.org, you can go to our fellows program page, and it kind of lays it out pretty clearly. We're not currently accepting applications, but the application for the 2024-2025 cohort is going to open up over the summer. Applications are usually due, the written part of the application is usually due in January. And then from there, we choose 36 participants to invite them to participate in something called Selection Day. And I can't really share much about Selection Day. It is meant to be a secret. Just know it's a all-day interview, and it is designed to identify those leadership characteristics that aren't easily identifiable on a written application. So things like how you think on your feet, how you work in a group, how much space you take up, how well you listen, how well you communicate. So we look at all of that information, and then we choose 12 finalists to participate in. We invite 12 finalists to join us for the following year. And then we usually have a short wait list. One thing to note is I'm here talking about Coro, Southern California. We also have centers in New York, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis. We're technically separate nonprofits, but we work very closely together, and it's the same application for all of those centers. And the way it works is you indicate your first choice, which would obviously be Southern California. I don't know why anyone would want to leave this amazing region. But you can also say that you're open to participating in New York or Pittsburgh. And the more places that you're open to participating, the more likely you are to A, get invited to Selection Day, and B, get invited to a cohort. I think similar to what Elliott and Catherine have shared, there's not one type of person who's a good fit for the program. I would say that the folks who we tend to be really impressed by are the ones who are very self-aware, who are already kind of thinking about who they are as a leader and how they're going to grow. They're kind of already starting that process. Usually they want to give back in some way, and they want to be impactful, and they see our program as a way to invest in themselves so that they can often go back to their communities and make the change or be impactful in sustainable ways.
Excellent. Elliott, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize I was off of mute too. I'm sorry if I was making noise here. My bad. Appreciate y'all sharing the application process. With City Year, there's a couple ways you can go about it. The first one I'll do is I'll plug this little QR code right here. You scan that, and that will schedule like a little time for us, you and I, to meet. And then we can kind of go over City Year. What are our benefits? What didn't we talk about today? What questions do you have? More intentional questions do you have about the process? And then I would send you over the application, and you would just sign up through there. There's also the other route you could take, which is going to cityyear.org and just clicking apply now. We have usually throughout the year, we have 3 different application dates. Our last deadline was just on this last Friday on the 10th. Our next deadline coming up is on March 24th. So typically I'll go based off of that one. So with this March 24th deadline coming up, you'll apply. And once you apply before then, you can expect to get a call within a week or two. Which then we'll be scheduling up your, you'll get an email actually within the week or two, which will schedule up your interview process. And then the interview will take a little bit, about an hour to do, about 45 minutes to an hour interview. And then you'll be notified by April 21st. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. And I'll name 2 pieces of that. The one thing that we have 3 application deadlines because the sooner that you apply, the more say you have in where you serve. I didn't name earlier, but we are in 29 different sites across the country. So you don't have to serve here in LA. You could serve in, I don't know why you would leave LA, like was said earlier, but you can go serve in New York on the East Coast. We have some spots in the South, and like myself, I served in Seattle. So that the sooner you apply, the more say you have in where you get to serve. We'll also say that we like to have sooner application dates because we know how it can be at home when people are asking you at your holiday dinner, what are you doing next? What's happening next? What's your plan? And that question can get so annoying. Trust me, I know. And so we like to give people that that peace of mind of I'm doing city year. Don't worry about it. I'll be doing city year for a year, and then catch me next year and ask me the same question, you know. So that's why we have that early time. And then so once you're accepted in, and then once we get around July, August is when we usually start our training, because school starts up around August 15th, at least here in Los Angeles. And then you can plan to be within the schools that quick. So it's not that gruesome of a application process. The application has 3 to 4 short answer questions on it, and takes about 45 minutes to an hour also to fill out. I'm also very much available to walk you through the application if you have any questions, your short answer responses. Also, I look at applications all the time, so you're more than free to send me your not applications, your resume whenever if you just need somebody to look it over. Am I missing anything? What makes you stand out? I feel like, just speaking to what you've done. I name this in the application and also in an interview. I think a lot of people get nervous in interviews because it's like there's so much pressure, but I think it's at the end of the day, you are just speaking to all the amazing things that you've already done, right? And you've done something. You're at UCI right now, so you've done something to get here, and I'm sure you're doing something currently now. Speak to those things. Speak to those times that you led a group. Speak to those times you were in a group and you disagreed with your partner. Like, there's so many different things you can speak to, and I think it's so important to name those, whether it's in the application or just in an interview, no matter where you're interviewing at. Just be yourself. That's all I can name. I think it's so important. So I'm pretty sure I named every piece of it.
Great tips from you all. Really good information to pass along to students. So another question that I'd be interested in learning, kind of, you definitely shared some of this as we were speaking in terms of like who would be a good fit for the program, what you're looking for. I'd be interested to hear what you think are some of the greatest takeaways in terms of skills and qualities and abilities, maybe some things you would assume, but perhaps there are, other things that kind of come along with the position from your experience or over time you've observed. And I could, Elliott, okay, thank you.
I can lead us off. So I'll kind of give you a little background real quick. I graduated with a business marketing major and a sports marketing minor, and now I find myself in the nonprofit educational world. I didn't know what I was doing next, right? So I was like, let me just try this out. And I started in September because we started a little later in Seattle. And by November, I was running a whole school event. I've never ran an event before in my life. I've never had that much pressure on my shoulders, right? So I think that just off the bat, I had my manager next to me the whole time, but it was like assistance. It wasn't like they were doing all the work, right? It was like, I'm gonna lead you in this way. Now come back to me in 2 weeks and tell me how you're doing. So I think you learn a lot of independency when you come to City Year, but also you learn how to communicate and you learn how to work in teams in ways that you've never been pushed, I think, before. I think you're serving 11 months with the same 7 to 8 people in your one room which you come back to in the community, and you're gonna, you're bound to butt heads. And I think you just learn how to navigate those spaces, how to talk to different types of people, how to talk to beyond your team, how to talk to a leadership in a school setting or just in any setting, a principal, or we can come all the way back down to a student, a third grader. How are we communicating with the third grader? That's you cannot communicate the same way to everybody. So I think that you learn a lot of those skills during this time alongside. So it's like so many things that you learn a lot about yourself as well. I feel like we have a lot of opportunities where we do a lot of professional development and personal development. So it's like doing a lot of deep diving into who we are as individuals. We come together once a month, we call them Pueblo Days, where you kind of just get to reflect on the month, first and foremost, reflect on how you're doing as an individual and just reflect on how things are going at the school. And I think that helps you just kind of check in with yourself and see how you're growing as an individual, but also maybe noticing some of the faults you might have had before you started the program, right? And how are we growing on those things? So there's just so many little different things that you could pick apart. And I'm kind of speaking to myself when I was telling you all these things of all the intangibles that I picked up from just 1 year of service. Then I did a second year and it was like, oh, now I'm a leader in this space. Now I have to, navigate conversations between two success coaches that might not be having the best relationship, so it's just, it's like I said earlier, it's hard, right? But it's meaningful work for not only the community that you're serving in, but for yourself.
That's great. Thank you so much.
I
Callie, would you like
can
to jump in? Perfect.
I apologize in advance. It's getting close to my dog's dinner time too. So if you hear some whining in the background, it's just a blue healer who's impatient. So it's a great question. I'm going to kind of divide it into two parts. So I'll start with the tangible benefits, and then I'll talk about the kind of more intangible. So tangible, I already kind of touched on the alumni community, but in California especially, it's just because San Francisco and LA are the two oldest centers. So the alumni community in California is amazing. And they really want to support fellows because often, a lot of times they got their start from the program. So most fellows are often after the program hired by alumni or they're kind of written, they get just a lot of opportunities from the alumni community. So you get this incredible alumni community. You get a lot of high level experience. Your resume looks very different after 9 months because you've completed 5 different projects doing mission critical work across different sectors. So you get a lot of new bullets on your resume as well. So those are some of the tangibles. Some of the intangibles, I would say that fellows are really comfortable with discomfort. And by that, I mean, we built into the training a lot of ambiguity. You don't necessarily know what's the next best step to take all the time, be it a group project or in your individual growth. And we do that purposely because we believe that leaders are often asked to step up and make decisions even when there's not a clear right or wrong. And so the idea is when you graduate, you'll lean in. You're not going to be afraid if you're in a tough situation because you've done it 100 times already over 9 months. So a lot of comfort with discomfort. I would say that fellows have really incredible communication skills. I mean, some of the best listeners I've ever met are Coro alumni. There's not a lot of ego. And they really know how to ask incredible questions. We actually train folks in the art of inquiry. So knowing how to ask questions to get information that's going to help you long term versus asking questions to prove a point or to show that you've done the work. We really train that out of folks. And then fellows also leave with a really incredible kind of cross-sectoral understanding of the region. Even if they know what they want to get into eventually, they know their path. Having kind of that broader perspective is really important. So for instance, we had a really amazing fellow. She graduated 2 years ago. She's currently in law school. She wanted to go into environmental law. She is still going down that path. But because of the program, she realized the importance of labor in the environment and environmental policy. So her trajectory is now labor and the environment, and she wouldn't have figured that out if she hadn't gone through the program. So it's just, you get kind of a new perspective and a much richer idea of kind of who you are as a leader and where your strengths are going to be the most impactful.
Again, great things. Catherine, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I like how people are bucketing things into tangibles and intangibles. I think that's really important with any type of service program. And I would say a lot of the intangibles that you're getting from Americorp Vista service is being able to problem solve. Again, you're coming into an organization that needs your help. And being able to create resources for that organization and for that community. I think, being able to work with diverse groups of people, being able to be flexible, being able to learn the new skills that come through that specific Americorp Vista service. Like I said, the types of activities that you're going to be doing with Vista service differ project to project, because all of the projects have a different focus. So, you know, let's say in one project, you might be learning how to apply for grants, or creating a communication and media campaign, or training and building a volunteer database. So all of these skills that you're getting, which are concrete skills, are going to be different depending on the type of project that you're serving with. But then everyone, when they finish their Americorp Vista service, is gaining those benefits. So we do find that a lot of Americorp Vista members do go on to work for the organizations that they served with. I think that organization gets an opportunity to see what you're capable of. And then you get a chance to see, is this something that I'm really interested in doing long term? You know, have I really gotten a chance to know what this organization does, and can I continue with that work? We also have the Employers of National Service program. So those are over 600 national employers who really value the skills and experiences that national service alumni have. And so they give priority to national service alumni when they're hiring. You also have the Education Award, and you could have a choice about whether or not you want to choose the Education Award or a cash stipend. If you're picking the Education Award, like I said, you can use that for current educational expenses or to repay student loans. We also have another national program called Schools of National Service. And these are schools and universities across the country that provide additional benefits on top of the Education Award. So that could be a scholarship, that could be academic credit for Americorp service. It depends on what the school is offering, but I know schools offer benefits. Some offer them at the undergraduate level, some offer them at the graduate level. So that's a way to make your Education Award go even further. And then the benefit that I mentioned as well, non-competitive eligibility. We see a lot of people utilize that status in order to gain employment within the federal government. It's not a guarantee that you'll get employment within the federal government, but I think it can really be a great way to get your foot in the door and show that all of that Americorp Vista service that you have can really lend to your future career. And I would say on top of that, you are making a positive impact within your community. Like I shared, Vista service is all about sustainability. So I think you have the satisfaction of knowing that the work that you're doing throughout that year of service or throughout that summer of service are building resources that are going to be there long after you leave your service. And I think there's a lot of satisfaction that comes from that.
Wonderful. Catherine, you have the perfect segue into kind of what I wanted to talk about next. And that's kind of, what do people do after these programs? And I know I get this question sometimes in kind of career advising or when I talk about these programs. And I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on, common career trajectories or the diversity of options of what people do go into after serving in your programs. And, I'll loop back to Catherine because you kind of shared a lot of that. I don't know if there are any more to add or themes that you tend to see, or you kind of covered a lot of it. So that was a perfect segue.
I probably don't have a lot more to add, but I think that, we see people go on to do such interesting things after their Americorp service ends. People go into state, local, federal government. People are entrepreneurs. People are working for nonprofits. People are, starting their own businesses. I think there's so many fascinating things that people go on to do after their Americorp Vista service that kind of continue that theme of making a positive impact within their community. So that's something that we really like to see too.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. And Callie, did you have some thoughts to add?
Sure. So folks who graduate from the Fellows Program in Public Affairs, a lot of them go on to law school. Like I mentioned, a lot of them go on to get their master's in public policy, master's in urban planning. In addition, a ton go into governments and then working for elected officials. We currently have staff in half of the LA City Council member or alumni and half of the LA City Council members. In our new mayor, we have a very recent alum. He graduated 3 years ago, who is currently a speechwriter in the Biden White House. Folks who work in Padilla's office right now. So a lot of folks go on to work for elected officials. Many of them go on to run for political office. And then there's a lot of folks who then also go to work in the nonprofit sector and private sector as well. So we have, for example, an alum who started one of the first entirely carbon neutral, green, prefab housing firms in the country. So a lot of diversity and kind of next steps, but people tend to go into careers where they can give back and they can use their talents for the greater good.
Great, thank you. And how about City Year alums, Elliott?
I'll speak a little bit to the gap year. Some individuals, they say they're taking a gap year, and then that gap year ends up being the rest of their life. Or, a lot of individuals say they're taking a gap year and they'll come do City Year, and then we have a couple opportunities, right? For myself, I was able to kind of, I guess you could say, level up within City Year. So, you like the program, you like what we do. Positions open up and on staff, and you're able to apply for them and try to get get your foot in the door. There's another route that you could take where we see a lot of core members do is, I keep calling them core members because back when I was serving, student success coaches is they go back to school, right? And I think what's really cool about City Years, I think both of these programs, we do give that educational award at the end of your service, and then you can either use that to further your education or pay off any back loans, right? But we're talking about the ones that are going back to school to get their masters, and we partner with a lot of different universities in the country. It's over 100 universities that they'll either match the scholarship that you've been given by City Year, or I've seen even some students, just because they did City Year, get like free education going to schools, and it's really amazing to see those connections. We have a couple schools, we have quite a few schools we work with out here on the West Coast. A lot of them are on the East Coast that we partner with, but that's one way that people go. And then we have our final route where it's time to get into the workforce, right? And we see a lot of people just going to different routes. I mean, we have teachers that come through that have people that might be interested in teaching. Okay, now I want to go do TFA. If you do City Year, you have a chance to do it. You are directly pushed up you automatically get an interview if you do City Year with TFA. So we see them go that route. We see people just go straight into the business. Maybe they find a different type of internship. Maybe they built relationships with our board members that led to jobs, so it's like there's so many different routes that you can take based off of this gap year that you could take with City Year. So
Great, excellent, very good. Well, I'm just going to ask one final question while we're in this group, and then I encourage folks to hang around for individual breakout times if you have some specific questions for our panelists. And, that's just going to be kind of a general question about just any other overall tips or insights that you would want to share with our students. And I know, Elliott, you talked about the gap year, and we hear a lot about, like, the students hear about a gap year and they get, that feels kind of good, like an idea of a gap year. So other benefits of participating in something like a gap year, or it might be years, or whatever it ends up being, from your perspective as well.
Yeah, I'll continue on. We preach heavy on the gap year because we believe that it's important for students to get some type of experience before whatever's next. A lot of students we run into a lot of students we talk to that maybe did not take a gap year, because at these events, you have a lot of people come to you and they're like, oh, I wish I would have taken some time to really see what I wanted to do with my life, or I wish I wouldn't have jumped into this master's program so soon because I like this now, or there's just so many different things in the world that you don't know because you haven't had time to research it. So I just feel like taking that gap year and like just seeing what's out here, getting that experience, building relationships with other people, individuals, seeing what you like, what you don't like is so important, because really you don't know. Like you can't unless you were able to like work all through college, work through this, like you don't really know what the work environment's like. So I definitely, that would be and I'm not just saying that because that's what we preach as the year. It's like anywhere you go, like I think if you want to go work at Target for a year, go do it and just see what it's like. And then just a little more on the tip side, I just say continue to just be yourself and grow through this life and lean into what makes you happy and step away from what's not bringing you peace and joy and not filling your cup. And it's going to take you down the right path. So I guess that's not really work advice, but it could be. Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. I think that's great work advice, actually. So thank you. Callie, would you like to offer your thoughts?
Elliott, that was very good life and work advice. I want to reiterate all of that. I would also say, like, don't be too rigid in your idea of what to do next. It's harder once you choose a path and you're in that trajectory, it's harder to step off and reevaluate. So just like take as many opportunities as you can early on, figure out what fits and what works and what doesn't. And also don't limit yourself. It's easy to look at a program or an opportunity and think that I'm not the right fit for this because of XYZ. And don't do that. I think that you would be surprised. Like the qualities that I and my colleagues look for in this program are real intangibles about, where we see potential. And so I would just encourage candidates to be kind of bold and brave and just, be willing to not put themselves into kind of small boxes.
More great advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Catherine, what do you have to add?
I mean, those are two really hard groups of advice to follow. I would say, so I've got 3 years of national service. So my 2 years with Peace Corps and my 1 year with Americorp Vista. And I just am so grateful for those opportunities because they gave me perspective on the world and on what I'm interested in too. So I think that personal growth and that professional growth, and then, being able to have that greater positive impact, I think that can be really hard to find sometimes. And so I think taking a gap year and kind of figuring out what you're interested in reality, I think a lot of times you're in school for so long that sometimes you put yourself on a path or a track and you don't get the opportunity to try lots of different things. And I think the benefit of taking a gap year is acknowledging that there's so many interesting things that you can be doing after college, after school, and giving yourself some time to experience what that could look like, I just think is really, really valuable. And I think any of the programs that we're offering here today just are so amazing and interesting and unique. And I think you'd be hard pressed to get these types of experiences with a job after college.
Such wonderful advice from you all. Well, I want to be the first to say thank you so much for sharing all of these personal experiences, your professional experiences, and your observations with us. And This was recorded, so this will live on as well. And I'm actually going to stop that now, though, as we move into our breakouts. And